so that's Billy Noble on keys there, and we asked him to just, well, obviously throw the B3 part on there. But it was kind of this whole other texture that we hadn't even gotten into at this point. I remember, like, it was originally, this project was meant to be just a trio: guitar, bass, and drums, and of course my vocals on top. But we heard the song, we were like, we got to have B3 on it. And so I asked Billy to lay some keys on it, and that's what you hear now. So we figured that by the time that we, had already overdubbed keys on this thing, I mean, we'd already taken it away from being, the pure live tracking thing, which, we were okay with that. I mean, we were trying to go for a completely live track, but, we decided that this thing is just screaming for keys. So we already made the decision that we're going to overdub that. We figured, all right, let me try overdubbing another guitar part. And this is a great example where if you were to hear the guitar part by itself, it's this kind of nasty, really gross guitar tone that most people be like, don't even bother with that. That sounds horrible. But for some reason, it works really well in the mix. It's kind of like the complement to the more, what I would consider, pure guitar tone on the left side of the mix. This is kind of the ratty thing. And where you hear that a lot is on Velvet Revolver tunes.
Yeah.
So you've got Slash, let's say, on one side, like the left side, but then you got Dave Kushner over on the right side. And to my ears, Dave is the guy doing all those kind of weird sounds. In fact, if you look at his pedal board, he's got all those weird effects and stuff. And like, if you put on your headphones, I mean, so just from what I know about the band, Dave typically would do those kind of just weird sounds. So I kind of had that in mind with this song anyway. But I'm also thinking along the lines of like Archangels. I mean, Doyle Bramhall and Charlie Sexton. I mean, they were great at those really bluesy textures. I mean, fuzz boxes, Leslie sounds, just rotary stuff. All kinds of things that just gave things a new texture than just your typical guitar playing. So one of my favorite parts of the song is in the second verse, and this is actually to the point of having two different guitar parts. Is if you listen over to the right side, there's this wah guitar. It's like this funky, sometimes hits a note, sometimes doesn't hit the note, but it's just this really cool thing. And it was a really hard decision to make in the mix. Like, how loud do we make that? Do we make it super obvious, or do we kind of keep it back? And it's one of those things, like, if you're, you kind of hear it the second time or the third time, or when you put on the headphones. I mean, Jimmy Page had that stuff all over the place to me. But about the grass being green on the other side. Well, yeah, you bet I can see. You can tell everyone whatever you want. And then the second time through, it goes from doing a funky thing to like just this da 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 da. Just like sweeping the wah. So it's just kind of like sweeping the wah, slowly pushing the wah down, so you get that really from muted kind of thing. And I don't know, I dig that. So one of the hardest things about this song for me is I play it on a Telecaster, which, and I'm using the bridge pickup, which for you non-musicians is kind of like a brighter sound. But then we get to this breakdown section. And that's the neck pickup. Now on a Stratocaster, it's easy to hit the switch and get the different sounds, but on my Telecaster, it's like you gotta squeeze your pinky in between this little switch and the volume knob, which are right next to each other.
Yeah.
And half the time I miss it, and either I cut my finger open or it just doesn't actually flip over.
I didn't think about that, like how tricky that would be in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably the hardest thing. I mean, the song to play, and there's a whole bunch of sections. No problem there, but hitting a switch up is like the hardest thing about the song. So now at the end of the song, we had another moment where we do a hold, but again, because we weren't tracking to a click on this song, we had to really look at each other. But fortunately, Brian, the drummer, hit a couple hi-hat hits, and we were able to get out of the song easy. But I remember being in the studio with this and getting to that point, going, "Oh no, what are we doing right now?" And fortunately, he hit those hi-hats, and okay, good.
Yeah, right.
Because otherwise, you're kind of hanging, nothing to say, yay to you. He do the final riff and we're out. So kudos to Brian on that one. To you.